So I feel like everyone needs to just sort of relax, stop feeding into other fans' agendas and narratives that Arsenal are doing bad, because we're not. We're honestly not. Welcome back to the Arsenal Humans podcast with me, Luce. I hope you're good. We've had an unreal week. I know people can say what they want to say about the draw against Chelsea, but we're top of the Premier League still. We're top of the Champions League. We're just extending week on week. Obviously, the women were on their international break. I feel like this episode is going to be quite male-dominated, but we will obviously have WSL games starting again next week. So in the prediction section, there'll be more about the women's game and also in whatever the weather feature at the top of the episode. But for now, I want to get into the warm-up poll because, yeah, you know what? I feel like this week has been a good week, and I feel like there's been a lot of noise, a lot of unnecessary noise, to be honest, mostly from other fans, I'm going to be real, that Arsenal have now bottled the league, Arsenal have now lost the title, we didn't have a great performance against Chelsea, which means that the league's done, like all of these things, and I'm like, guys, what we've done this week is crazy. We went from winning 4-1 in the North London derby to competing against arguably one of the best teams in Europe right now, Bayern, and beating them at 3-1, such a dominant performance. And then we drew against Chelsea, which was arguably one of the biggest fixtures we've had to play before Christmas. So I feel like we've had a good week. We can relax. So basically, I just wanted to bring a bit more positivity, but also see what other Arsenal fans sort of thought of that Chelsea 1, Arsenal 1 draw, because I feel like it did unsettle a few minds. For me, it didn't, but I wanted to get your thoughts. So the warm-up poll, which obviously you can go vote for over on luce.case on Instagram for future polls, but thank you to anyone who obviously voted for this one and who votes for them previously. There's a few of you guys that always vote, and I really appreciate that. I basically said, Gooners, are you happy with this week as a whole? And that's because obviously we won in the Champions League, but then we drew in the Premier League, so there were mixed emotions, as I was saying, but no mixed emotions really with the poll results, because 97% of you said yes, you're happy with this performance and the week as a whole, and only 3% of you said you're not. So I'm going to have to agree with the majority once again. I feel like obviously we had two great wins. Obviously the back of last week with that North London derby, that was unreal, and then obviously with the Champions League win. And I feel like even with this Chelsea performance, it didn't overshadow the week at all. If anything, it was probably, I'm going to get into the games in probably about 4 or 5 minutes in this pod, but if anything, the game itself was probably one of our worst performances we've seen this season, and we still managed to get a draw against a team that played really, really well. I think we did well to get a draw. Obviously, we were so close to actually getting a winner in the last minute, which I know that Gyökeres is probably gutted that Timber ended up getting his head on it, because the corner came in, Timber just knocked it, but I reckon if it went to Gyökeres, would have won us the game. But if anything, we didn't really deserve it. Obviously, I would have loved to have got those points, but we didn't really deserve the win. If anything, we got lucky to get a draw. So I think, yes, the performance, if you're looking at it as a whole, that wasn't good enough, which obviously could add a negative spin on the week. But when we're looking at just the outcome and the points that we've got this week, considering the context of it, I think we've had a pretty good week. So I feel like everyone needs to just sort of relax, stop feeding into other fans' agendas and narratives that Arsenal are doing bad, because we're not. We're honestly not. We haven't started to decline or anything like that. We literally just had a game where most of our starting 11 were out. We had a mix in form, and that's okay. It's okay. It didn't cost us the league. We're still about, 5 points ahead of City or something, so we're still doing great, and we've still got breathing room as well. So honestly, I feel like this has been a great week, despite some of the negativity you might hear. So that is basically my thoughts. Obviously, if you want to say your thoughts, let me know down in the comment below, because I'd love to hear from you. But yeah, let's move on to whatever the weather feature, because I feel like this week has been quite sunny, quite positive, but there's been a few cloudy headlines, so let's get into that now. Okay, so the whatever the weather feature is where I go through the week of Arsenal, what has happened, good, bad, but instead of saying they're good or bad, I basically just say they're sunny or cloudy. Sorry if that's just boring reminder if you've listened to this feature before, but I thought I'd just say it in case that, there's any new people listening. So welcome to the pod, hope you're enjoying it. Okay, the first headline, we're going to go for a really sunny one, and honestly, this, I don't think I can even do it justice with the words I'm describing, so you need to go check it out. But it is, of course, Max Dahlmann's unreal goal against Bayern Munich, the under-18s, obviously, which ironically actually played the morning that obviously the first men's team ended up playing in the evening against. Both wins, we love to see it. But Max Darman's goal in particular, I think it just shows that obviously he's still so young. And even in an under-18 squad, he's probably one of the younger players. But I think it just showed how good he is. I think it was just so good to see how he literally dominated the field. He just went into the box, did a little turn in the box, ended up finding there. And I just think you can just tell that he's so good. He's so confident in himself, and I hope that carries on. And also it's nice to see him being successful in the under-18s when he doesn't get that call up for the first team. But the fact that he's getting called up for both, unreal. So that I'm very, very impressed with. The second one is slightly cloudy headline. But I'm going to basically just say my views of the League Cup draw. I wanted to mention the League Cup draw because we found out, this is obviously the women's one, the Subway Cup. We found out that Arsenal will be facing Crystal Palace in the Subway League Cup. And that was thanks to a draw that was done by GK Barry and her partner, Ella Rutherford. Obviously, Ella Rutherford is a footballer and GK Barry is an influencer, content creator, whatever you want to call it. I feel like most people have probably seen this headline, and I don't want to go into too much detail. I'll keep it quite brief. Personally, for me, I don't think getting an influencer to do a cup draw that doesn't know anything about football wasn't necessarily the right decision. Obviously, it wasn't that serious. Obviously, it meant that there was a bit of a lack of professionalism, but I find GK Barry hilarious. Like, I love her sense of humour. I think she's really funny. And they hired GK Barry, so they got GK Barry. So I think it's very much that narrative, and a few people definitely will be agreeing with me on this one, that it's not her fault that they hired her because she just was herself, if that makes sense. And I've seen that on both her story and Ella Rutherford's story. There's been death threats sent, and I just think that's so stupid that this cup draw, something that she was just hired to do, to be herself, she's not going to suddenly change and suddenly know everything about football. But I think maybe it's more the choice of whoever decided to do this cup draw, the Subway League Cup as a whole. They probably shouldn't appoint someone like that, and I think they've probably learnt their lesson, so I don't want to dwell on it too much. But I just think it's just a bit annoying when people are tearing down Grace's character when it's nothing to do with her character. She was just being herself. Her partner knows about football, and you can tell that she was obviously chipping in and saying her bit about the league and what the matches actually mean and everything. But I think they were just having a joke. Obviously it wasn't too professional, but that's obviously they hired them, so I don't really know what else they were expecting. So I think there shouldn't be any hate towards those two. If anything, the attention should be directed to the people that hired them and what attitude do they want people to bring to the women's game. If they want it to be more professional and more serious, the same way that it is pretty much for every men's draw, then maybe they should think of hiring ex-professionals and then maybe a presenter who could then bounce off the professional. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think either way, the hate should just be redirected. So that was a bit more of a cloudy headline, but obviously it does mean that Arsenal have Palace in the League Cup draw, which obviously is the quarterfinals, which I'm very excited about. It should be a good game. And the final one is a sunny headline. We always want to end it on a sunny headline if we can, and obviously it's been quite positive this week. Both Declan Rice and Alessia Russo are the FSA Players of the Year. I mean, it's just so great to have two Gooners. Obviously, those two players in particular are two of my favourite Gunners. So, yeah, it's just really great, especially because this is the Football Supporters Association Award, which basically is voted by all fans across the UK. So that is great for us to win. Great to put them on the map and thoroughly deserved. So, yeah, that was the Whatever the Weather section. We've got 2 games to get into and then we've got 2 predictions to get into. So let's do that now. Okay, so as I was saying at the start of this episode, what a week of football we've had, and I feel like there's so many points that I could take from each game, but as always, I'm just going to go for 3 points to basically summarise my thoughts of the game. There's obviously so many more things you could think, so if there's anything that you think I miss out in particular, comment it down in the comments below. Let me know. So the first game was Arsenal 3, Bayern 1. I predicted it to be a 2-1 win, so it exceeded my expectations, but it went along the same narrative of us winning, which, you know what, let's just go straight into my first takeaway. Does this mean that Arsenal are the best team in Europe? I feel like there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of conversation around this, because these were the 2 teams entering the competition that so far this season had played 4 games in the Champions League, had won 4 games in the Champions League. We know Bayern are powerhouses in Europe. We know that they're one of the best right now in the world. But the fact that Arsenal had such a dominant performance, I think it's almost scary as well. Like, I think Arsenal is scary right now because we didn't even have a striker, an out-and-out striker in this game. We were missing players in certain positions, yet we were still able to be such a dominant force in Europe. So, yeah, I'm pretty chuffed with that. I'm very excited. I'm And I do feel like Arsenal have to be the best in Europe. I'm kind of whispering that a little bit because I'm like, can I say that? But I do feel like we've got to be, well, we are right now anyway, so the context is right now. And obviously we're top of that Champions League group stages anyways, so I'm very, very excited about that. Focusing on the game itself, my second takeaway is about our midfield, because honestly, we have one of the best midfields. I think the link up in particular between Zubimendi and Rice is so, so good. I spoke, if you didn't get to hear it, definitely go listen to the Fan Zone. I did, literally, it's gone out just Friday, so about 4 or 5 days ago now, with Luke Henry, and we were chatting about Zubimendi being one of the summer signings, if not the summer signing for Arsenal, because of what he's allowed Rice to do. And I think this game was a great example of it, because Zubimendi covers the defensive line. He is that CDM that slots in, that number 6. And obviously we know Rice can play there. But when Rice plays as a number 8, I feel like he unlocks his full potential. And that's something I think works so well with this partnership, and something that we saw very well throughout this game. So I'm very excited to see how they continue to build that partnership up, because to be fair, they've only been playing with each other for a few months, but it feels like years and years. So honestly, hats off to them. I think they're two of the best players in the team right now anyways. The final thing, I feel like I could obviously mention so many players like Madueke getting his first Arsenal goal. That was great to see, especially with the amount of hate before he joined the club, a bit of confusion and hate whilst from pundits especially, whilst he's been at the club, like, has he done enough, has he not? And I think this was great, but I don't want to focus on him. In fact, I want to focus on Calafiori, because the fact that obviously Miles Lewis-Skelly was struggling quite a bit to mark Elise in this game, and then suddenly Calafiori came on and he was so calm and dominant, and he was so controlled with his play. I think it's so great that if some players aren't playing up to their normal potential or what we would expect of them, we have so many backup options. If anything, obviously this game, normally Calafiori would start, but I think it was just great for Arteta to experiment with it. And it was so great because when Calafiori came in, he came in clutch. So I'm very, very happy with that. Overall, I feel like, there's so many things I could chat about this game. So obviously let me know your thoughts, because I feel like it was such a great, dominant performance in Europe. And I think as much as everyone's like, oh yeah, this is a statement game, or there's so many games that are statement games, I do feel like it put a message out there. I think it put a message out there that Arsenal are very serious this season in multiple competitions, and we are that dominant, that we are so, so serious that we're looking to compete in all of them. So, yeah, I definitely do feel like this put a statement out there. Moving on to the second game, which kind of put maybe a different statement out there. If we want to say it was Chelsea 1, Arsenal 1, I did predict it to be a 3-1 win. I thought out of the 2 games this week, the Chelsea game would probably be the easier game compared to the Bayern game, and boy, was I wrong. So this game, I don't even know how to word it, because I think it started off so chaotic, and you could tell that was a proper London derby at the start, because it was just like reckless tackles. You could tell that maybe Chelsea are a younger side, because there was just so many reckless fouls. And obviously that one particular Caicedo, he got a red card. And since then, I felt like the game just went really, really flat. Don't get me wrong, I feel like we did well to get a draw. And you know what? That leads me to my first point. I feel like this was probably Arsenal's worst performance of the season so far. The fact we managed to get a draw, I think that's a positive on it though, because we didn't lose, even though we probably should have. If I'm a Chelsea fan sat here right now, I'd be gutted that we didn't get a win, because honestly, should have got that. I just felt like Chelsea were first to everything. Chelsea were very good at shutting us down, and in particular they learnt well from our corners, because obviously we're known as Corner FC, and I felt like they only had a few players in the box, which meant that we sort of had to be drawn out just in case their keeper saved it, kicked it out, and that kind of happened quite a few times, so they were all ready for that counter-attack. So I think they played us very well. Obviously we were missing so many key players, and you know what, that's sort of my second point. My second point is that considering we were missing so many key players, I feel like we did well to maintain the game. Raya had to pull off some unreal saves. We had Nkapie slotting in. I think Marino, he didn't really show up too much of the game, but obviously he got that goal, which is his 20th goal for Arsenal, which is just amazing. I think that's his 10th goal this season, considering that he's not even out-and-out striker. Obviously Gyökeres could have got on the score sheet at the end, which is, I know, very, very frustrating. But I think this sort of leads me to my third point of, as a whole, I don't really think Arsenal showed up. There weren't too many links and passages of play. But the one player that you can actually, I feel like you can always rely on this player, it is obviously Bukayo Saka. I feel like he showed up. He was cutting in from the right. He was dragging it back, just running down the wing. And it was just, I'm just gutted that he didn't really get the ball fed to him, or no one was in the end of his crosses to get it in the net, because honestly, the players around him didn't put in the shift enough to make him get more glory with assists and with goals. So that's obviously frustrating. But I do feel like as a whole, people need to stop being so negative about this game. I feel like, yes, it's happened, but we can move on. We've got a busy few weeks coming up. All the games in December, if I'm being honest, I feel like Arteta should win all the games in December, or if we're going to have to be slightly more realistic, maybe draw at least 1 or 2, but we shouldn't be losing any games in December with Arteta's side, is all I'm saying. So I feel like we've got to turn our attention to the upcoming week, because you know what, we've actually got a couple games already. I realised at the start of this episode, I was like, oh, let's predict the 2 games coming up. We've got 3 games coming up, so let's get into that now. After such a chaotic, busy, positive, mixed emotioned week, we've got 3 games coming up, and we do have the women back in action, which I'm very excited about. Obviously, they've been competing for their nations currently, obviously in an international break, but I'm excited to get them back in those Arsenal shirts. So obviously the first game, focusing on the Premier League, is happening tomorrow night. It's Arsenal versus Brentford, and it is at 7:30pm. It's obviously a home game. I'm going to straight up predict it to be a 3-1 win. I feel like Brentford, their form's been a little bit mixed. If you look at their last 5 games, I feel like they've lost a couple, won a few, but it's been in different competitions against a variety of teams. But I feel like if we want to prove that we're serious about the league, and especially when we're going to get a lot of noise and a lot of narratives created from that Chelsea game, we need to sharpen this game. And maybe, yeah, we can't keep that clean sheet, but I think we definitely should be able to get 3 goals. So I'm going to predict a 3-1 win for that. Carrying on with the Premier League theme of the week, at the weekend on Saturday the 6th at 12:30pm, we are travelling to Aston Villa. I'm going to predict it to be a 2-1 win, because I think there's been a lot of noise created around the fact that Aston Villa are doing really, really well. They've sort of snuck out of nowhere, come up in the top 5, and people are now thinking, are they title contenders? I think, to be honest, at this stage, anyone in the top 5 can be seen as a title contender. Whether they're actually going to do it, whether they're actually in that title race when it gets to maybe February, March time, that's, I think, when you can really see it. But the league is taking shape, and they are doing very well. So I think it's going to be a tight game, but I do think we're going to win 2-1. I'm hoping that we'll have a lot of our players back for that game at least. If not for the Brentford game tomorrow, then it should be the Villa game at the weekend. Annoyingly, though, that game is at 12:30pm on Saturday 6th, and then also the women are playing at 12pm on Saturday the 6th at the Emirates. Obviously, this time I'm going to the game. It is in the WSL. We are facing Liverpool. Firstly, is anyone else going? Let me know down in the comments below, because I just feel like it's such a good vibe at the Emirates, especially the last game we went to was that Chelsea game. Actually, I'd say it was a good vibe. The fans were good. The VAR situation, controversy of the refs and everything, that was not good. So I'm hoping it can be a better game. I think the fact that we've had a break, we've had time to reset, Slagers has had time to think of who she'd like to start, who she wouldn't. We're in 4th, Liverpool are at the bottom of the league. We should be dominating them. I think we should be keeping a clean sheet as well, so I'm going to predict a 3-0 win. Basically, we have to win this game if we are serious about the WSL, and if we want to put Arsenal back on the map, we have to win this game by quite a bit. Not even just a 1-0, it has to be a 3-0. So I'm praying, and also I'm manifesting that, because, you know, I want it to be a good game, because I will be there. So yeah, they're the predictions. Obviously, let me know. I am predicting 3 wins once again. But realistically, I think we can get all 3. And if anything, I think we need all of these wins this week if we want to be serious on multiple fronts for both the Premier League and the WSL. Okay, so that is basically the end of this episode. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you're new here, thank you for joining me. And if you haven't subscribed on YouTube or followed on Spotify, what are you waiting for? It's free to do. You can do it. Obviously, there's no pressure whatsoever, but it really helps me. I feel like the community I've been building over the last year, I'm quite proud of, and I'd like to continue to build it and also continue to get on great guests. We will be having a guest next Friday. Sadly, this is the only episode for this week, but I'll have an episode next Tuesday, and then also a fan zone on the Friday. As always, let me know down in the comments who you want to see on those fan zones. I feel like they're my favourite episodes to do. Obviously, I love doing this because, especially after this week, it's been a great time to talk about Arsenal, but I love talking to other people about their connection to the club. So definitely let me know if you have any ideas of any future guests, then I'd love to hear from it. But yeah, for now, that is all I have to say. I think we're doing well. I think Arsenal are doing all right. I'm excited to see the women back in action. So yeah, have a great week. Enjoy watching Arsenal wherever you are watching Arsenal, and come back next Tuesday where we can debrief all the action from this week.